Welcome to the Good Bad Mad podcast, a show that's here to share the ins and outs of creative careers, connecting the aspirational with the experienced, with your host, me, Meg Ellis. My guest for this episode is the wickedly funny Olivier Award-winning Cassidy Janson, known for her musical theatre work in Juliet, Chess, and Beautiful, the Carole King Musical. She is also 1/3 of the powerhouse trio Leading Ladies. Cassidy shares with us her journey into theatre with the ups and downs along the way. Hope you enjoy it. Cassidy, hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, very good. My cat is being very cute. Jemima. Jemima? You're going to speak? She chats all the time.
Really?
Oh, she chats. You have full conversations with her. Hey, baby.
How have you been? How has lockdown treated you?
Someone called it the Corona coaster. And it really is. It really is this up and down, left and right. One day you think you've really got this whole thing. Okay, yeah, I'm going to enjoy every second of it. And the next day you're in depression, suicidal, but just this very low feeling.
Yeah.
And then the next day you're like, oh, actually this is fun again. And it's so weird.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. I'm so excited.
Pleasure. Hit me with some questions.
Yeah. So, I mean, the whole point of the Good Bad Mad podcast is really to understand the reality of these kind of creative careers that people dream about and aspire to and train so hard for. But sometimes people never actually talk about what goes into making these careers. So we chat with people like yourself who have kind of established themselves within the industry and kind of pass on that little tips and tricks and advice that you've experienced and learned along the way.
Okay, I can do that.
So can we start at the very beginning?
Okay.
Did you always know you were going to go into musical theatre?
I didn't know I'd go into musical theatre, but I think I knew I'd always somehow dance, sing and act. Somehow. I think I wanted to be the new Kylie Minogue when I was little.
I think
star.
Everyone reenacted that spinning around video.
Yeah. So kind of had that vibe going on. And then I went to see a musical when I was about 10 and I realised that people could actually dance, sing and act in one place all the time. So I kind of was like, yeah, I want to be in Cats. I want to be in Cats. That's all I want to do.
Cats? That was the first one you saw.
Yeah, I wanted to be in Cats. I wanted to do the Jellicle Ball. I wanted all of that. It took me a long time to find out people hated Cats. It was a real Marmite show. And I was like, for me, I was just like, but it's brilliant. And they're like, yeah, but there's no plot. And I was like, well, it didn't even occur to me that there was no plot. It didn't even occur to me.
To be fair, you were 10.
I was 10 and I just loved, I was like, well, there's singing and there's dancing. What do you mean plot? The singing and dancing. I mean, that's just delightful. And my cat's chasing her tail. I think she does this to guilt trip me, which is just I am so mentally abused by my owner and unstimulated. I'm going to play with my own tail to guilt trip her into paying me attention. Otherwise, yeah. And I'm like, she's not a neurotic cat. She's just needy. She is delightful. She is the love of my life. So speaking of cats, and big fan of cats. My biggest upset was when they changed the Mungo Jerry and Rumple Teaser song completely. I was like, why did they do that? I mean, it was so much better, the original, in my humble opinion. Devastated. I was like, what's this vulgar? Why? It's so funny. Traumatized. Never got over it. But now it's so funny because when I went to dance college, everyone wanted to be in Cats. It was like Cats. And then, but now I think you really couldn't pay me to be in Cats. I'd be like, oh, 8 shows a week. Nah, I'm all right. I'm good. I've danced in a few shows. I know what that feels like on your body on Sunday.
So even if Andrew Lloyd Webber himself approached you for the role.
I'd give it, like, if it was Grisabella, of course I would do Grisabella. Of course I would do Grisabella. I'd probably pull every muscle in my body if I attempted to do the Jellicle Ball now. So yeah, you just you're the things that give you pleasure and the things that you would get pleasure from just change, and there's no sort of it's not a grief thing. It's just that's interesting. That's interesting. As you grow and change, things just naturally fall away, and new things sort of. I suppose since we have this beautiful bouquet of flowers here, let's use flowers as an analogy. You sort of have a plant that's growing, and this year this flower grows up, and you go, okay, that's my full expression. And when that part of you just evolves into sort of wilting, this other flower pops up, and there's this other thing, and you're still the same plant.
Yeah.
God, I'm full of it today. I mean, God, it's not even 3 o'clock.
I love a good analogy. English lit grad here, so go for it.
Cassidy Analogy Janson. That's probably what my students call me. God.
I love it.
Yeah.
So cats. At that age when you saw that, were you the dancing, singing child performing at every possible?
Every possible. I was in my garden with my next door neighbour Vicky Copeland, making up dance routines to Singing in the Rain, telling our parents, and the parents would come and sit in my parents' garden, and we'd entertain them with the number of Singing in the Rain that we'd created.
I love it. I mean, were people recognizing and kind of boosting you at that age for your voice?
Yeah. Yeah, it was I always had a great aptitude for picking up dancing, so I was very good at that, and in my little local school I was probably one of the best. Then you go to the big school and you realise you're not.
Yeah.
And then but vocally, like, it was in that kind of fearless knowingness of youth, I was just like, I'm a great put a beat there, I am a badass singer, and I know it. Like, I just knew it. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, and people would always sort of obviously acknowledge that and be like, that is amazing, well done. And my parents, she's very special, help her. And my parents don't play music or anything like that. They're not musical at all or artistic at all.
They're not in the industry?
They were like, what do we do with this thing? What do we do with her? And people were just like, go this way.
Yeah.
So that was
how did that evolve then? Just lots of dance classes, lots of singing classes?
Yeah, so I think Mum would she'd be like, oh, Mountview do these song and dance Easter workshops. So when I was 10, I started. So Mountview very much feels like, even though I didn't train there professionally, I actually went there for 18 years. I don't often talk about
goodness.
That. Yeah. I every summer and Easter, from when I was 10 to when I was 18, I would do the summer and Easter workshop. So it was two weeks or 1 week. I think it might have been 2 weeks a pop. So that's a good 4 weeks a year that I'd be at Mountview doing my thing. Yeah. Sam Spencer Lane, who used to be the head of song and dance there, head of dance, sorry. She taught me when I was 10. So I've known her my whole life, and she's become a very dear friend. So we both sit there. We went for a dog walk the other day, and we're mates now. Isn't that amazing? I was very much. She was the adult. I was the 10-year-old girl. She was my teacher. And we have ended up, it's one of my most cherished relationships, actually. And we've gone from that, getting on very well as a student and teacher, and always having a sort of kooky, we both got a very kooky sense of humour, to working together on a few shows, to suddenly realising, oh my gosh, we are very, very similar and quirky in the same way. Yeah. And going for a drink on my birthday during one technical rehearsal, and she's like, we've done it. I went, what? She went, we've changed our relationship from that to now being friends. And I went, oh God, isn't that amazing?
I love it.
I love it so much. So she was really and is still a very important figure in my life. And she really was, much more than my local school teacher. She was very much the supportive, kind, compassionate, encouraging person. She wrote my letters of recommendation to college. She was an advisor, and I really appreciate everything she did for me, actually. Yeah.
Oh, it sounds like a wonderful mentor-mentee relationship. but I'm just saying, you've been training from a very young age then.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I started ballet lessons when I was 2.5, which was very young. I find out now. And I always did something, like I would do ballet, and then I'd stop and do gymnastics, and then I'd stop and do tap, and then I'd stop and do jazz, and then wouldn't dance for a while, come back and do ballet, like, and part of me is a bit like, I wish my parents had sort of said, come on, do this, because I think I probably would have had a better technique when I went to professional dance college at 16. But I think there's always pros and cons to each way of handling things, because what always happened was I never lost my love of it. It was always self-originated. It always came from like, I want to do it or I don't. I want to do it or I don't. And it was never like, well, you have to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that probably put in me, rightly or wrongly, a good sense of what I want to do, as opposed to feeling like resentful because I was being made to do it, which I know happened to, and it happens to a lot of dancers. Their parents see the talent and they get pushed and pushed to the point where they're just like, I hate this.
Yeah.
But the other people forget, like, there's a mental side to dance as well. There's a sort of type of person that enjoys being told what to do. I remember someone saying, oh, I hate when people tell me what to do. How could you? And I was like, I love it.
Yeah.
I literally have like nothing on it. I can do what I want to do, or in a class I get told what to do. And I was just like, it didn't bother me.
You like the discipline element.
And there's degrees of that. So I think what I would say is, yes, obviously there's a physical facility for different types of dances. And obviously the ultimate is the ballerina facility, the turnout, the feet, the legs and everything, right? But also what goes with that, and you have to have both, is the mentality. Like, you have to have the ballerina body and the ballerina mentality, which is very strict discipline. Super be happy to be controlled by other beings, and not feeling like you're not doing it, but you're you're causatively deciding to be controlled by other human beings. So it is still your choice. Does that make sense? So it's all about
no, it does. Like, you are kind of choosing to be there and expressing yourself through dance, but that requires someone else to kind of puppeteer.
Exactly. And you're willingly putting yourself in that position of being puppeteered, so you don't mind being puppeteered. Like, it's quite actually that does make sense. But
it's also just that trust element, and you get this across the arts in general, is relying on a director or relying on musicians or something to be able to do their job to make the whole performance look good as a whole. 100%. So what made you choose, where did you go to? Dance school, drama school?
Performing arts school. So it was mainly dance. So we did the whole ballet at 9 o'clock every day. Oh gosh, I can't believe it. But yes, I did. And then there was probably like 2 to 4 drama lessons each week, 2 to 4 singing lessons each week. So went to London Studio Centre and Millennium Dance.
Okay. What made you choose that over Mount View, which you'd had this kind of long-term relationship with?
I don't know if it's changed, but Mount View didn't accept students till they're 18.
Right.
And I went when I was 16. Otherwise, I would have very much gone to Mount View. It was my because obviously I'd grown up. I really had grown up. Felt like I'd grown up there every summer and Easter. Very much felt like my stomping ground, and I made a lot of friends because there was quite a few girls and boys sometimes that would do the summer and Easter workshops regularly, like me.
So you left school at 16.
I did. I was actually 15 because I'm a summer baby. I was such a child.
Was that an encouraged decision or a contested decision?
Encouraged. My parents were, I think, because they just had no clue as to what exactly this profession entailed, that they just went, okay, well, go do this thing that everyone keeps telling us you're very good at. So there was no go get a degree, go to uni, go get your A-levels, nothing. Which I have to really be grateful to my parents for, because I think I would have hated. I always knew what I wanted to do. Not a lot of people have that. I was always confused when people didn't have that knowledge of what they wanted to do. I was like, how can you not know what you want to do? Like, I didn't understand other people not having that. and it wasn't in an arrogant way. I had no comprehension of not having a passion that was your life drive. I was like, how can you exist and not have a life purpose that keeps you up at night? I was like, I don't understand how you can just kind of go, oh, I'll probably get a job and I'll probably have some kids. And I'll be like, yeah, but what about the other stuff? And they're like, what other stuff? And I was like, the other stuff. Yeah. And then I've realised that that's sort of more normal.
No, I 100% get what you mean by it. Like, I mean, my personal was similar. I always wanted to work in theatre and film. Not quite sure what in theatre and film, but it was always that. And because of that passion and that kind of drive, when it didn't come easy or didn't come as expected, I think there came quite a downfall with that at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did you ever have that kind of journey, or was it quite building up along the way,
It was like, I think everyone's journey in show business is the wonderful thing and the tragic thing about theatre is you get the highest highs, you also get the lowest lows. Most people have sort of that. So we have these extreme peaks and extreme troughs. And I think it really, if you can learn to sort of not worry about that and somehow sort of I think you get desensitized. I think you still get upset, but I think you get desensitized to the peaks and the troughs. Or you just, desensitized is a good word. So you sort of really enjoy the highs. You're like, this is amazing. But you get used to them. You're like, oh, another press night, another amazing frock. Oh, that's a great picture of me. Yeah. Champagne, thank you very much. And then you kind of know that at some point, without any sadness, you're going to be sat at home in your living room on a Sunday in your onesie, probably for 3 days, binge watching Netflix, waiting to hear on an audition. Yeah. So, and I think we become and I think theatre people, and I haven't done film, but we are constantly in a flux. There's always, we know no job is forever. We know it's finite for a short period of time. So we're already thinking about what happens next. Whereas most people, they're like, that's my job. Okay, I don't have to think about that. What's the other parts of my life for pleasure, leisure, and whatever? We're constantly going, what's next, whilst trying to be committed to this new job, which is very all-consuming because it's new and we've got to learn lines and everything. Whereas most people don't have to have that much attention on their day job. Yeah, it is what it is. And I think with all of that constant change, constant uncertainty, we get certain in the uncertainty. We're like, I know that my life is uncertain and I'm certain in that. Oh, I'm coming out of... I'm
tired today.
I don't know where this is coming from. Maybe I had a good night's sleep. It was probably the antihistamine I took last night. Let's just say it. It was probably the antihistamine.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I'm straight on the antihistamine this week. It suddenly shot up.
Oh God.
No, I get it. And do you think that kind of desensitization, as you phrase it, is that comes with just time?
Yeah.
Or is there kind of other tricks and techniques that you can use?
I think time.
Yeah.
Time, and I think a lot of actors get into psychology. The other thing about this desensitization that we were just talking about, again, I read an article, I think, on this. How do they stop jet pilots getting sick from the G-force, throwing up and passing out?
Okay.
How do they do that and stop them? Mostly just stop them freaking out when they're in a forced nosedive. How do they stop pilots from essentially having panic attacks? Because it's terrifying, right? They throw them into a forced drop over and over again until they stop freaking out.
Right. Okay.
So
practice.
Essentially, the thing that scares the crap out of you, I hope that's okay saying this, but the thing that scares you the most, or the thing that's really scaring you that you have to be able to do, you either, the only way to stop your body thinking it's going to die is to repeatedly put it into this thing where you go, oh, hang on, I didn't freak out quite as much this time. And that's what happens to a degree, I think, with actors. We're going, the number one human fear apparently isn't dying, it's talking in public. Right. So we are choosing to do the thing that innately terrifies human beings the most, right? And somehow we get a perverse pleasure out of it. Like what and how do we do that? We either naturally have an innate quality where we don't care what other people think, which is rare for an actor, or we sort of love this performance so much that we desensitize ourselves to the terror of standing and being looked at. Like it's a weird thing to do to yourself.
Did you get that kind of stage fright when you were starting out?
Yeah.
Freezing moments, or just kind of pre-show terror?
I'm trying to think. I was mostly auditions. I sucked at auditions when I left college. I really, really, I think that's probably why I started reading lots of spiritual books, and not deliberately to help that. I just happened to read them, and then they happened to help realizing my psychological habits that were withholding me from enjoying something that I enjoy. Like you sort of realize that everything's you, right? And when I was really tiny, apparently stupid, like because I was 2.5 or 3 when I was doing ballet lessons. Oh, this is cute. Emma Bunton, one of the Spice Girls, she was playing the Sugar Plum Fairy, and I was one of the fairies that were behind her. And apparently, because I was so diddy, we were all supposed to sort of hop off stage in line, and I got so confused. I just went, "Is it time to go off stage yet?" to everybody, and then the ballet teacher had to come pick me up and carry me off stage. So I upstaged Emma Bunton. I'm really sorry, Emma, in my confusion. It's so funny, isn't it? And so I think there was some kind of like not quite. And I think when I was doing a tap show, I used to get very disoriented on stage with the lights and the costumes, and I would sort of, I remember feeling very I suppose it was a form of sort of stage fright. I was too young to know what was happening. I just got very
overwhelmed.
Everything, surreal. And then you sort of work out as you get older, like, oh, that's what it is, and you don't even name it anything at that age, do you? You just go, oh, I feel a bit scared, and I'm just going to say my line, and you realise it was terrible, and you're like, oh, that was terrible, and I don't know, you just sort of sort of fail forwards, I suppose.
God, you're good on the lines today.
What has happened? I don't know. I would say I've meditated, but I don't meditate. I don't know.
I love it. I'm just thinking soundbite. So you graduated from dance school and stage school, and then did you get an agent off the back of that, or was it just straight into kind of open calls auditions?
I did get an agent, and I think I like to tell how not very good the beginning of my career was, because I think it's really helpful, particularly now, for how rough it is for new graduates. So I graduated and I was absolutely clueless as to how to get an agent, and I didn't get an agent when I graduated. I managed to get one, I think, by sending off a CD recording of me singing on a trial period, and I was just hopeless. Like I was waiting tables, and they kept giving me auditions when I was having a shift, and I was like, I've got a shift, and I'd have to call it, and I hated the whole calling in sick for a shift when I wasn't sick, and then going to this audition and just messing up the audition, and I just wasn't. I was just clueless. It wasn't I wasn't talented. I was just absolutely clueless, unworldly. Yeah, unworldly is a good description. And they dropped me. And I was like, and I remember not even really caring, because I was just like, I don't know what the hell I don't know how to get to where I want to be. I don't know how to get there, and this thing isn't really working with this agent. And then I carried on waiting tables. I waited tables for about 3 years. I was recording my own pop music, which I was really pleased with. And then out of the blue, some friends of mine from Millennium Performing Arts called me and said, will I be Peppermint Patty and Snoopy the Musical above the Rosebery Branch Theatre? And I, of course, said yes. And it was probably my first experience of actually, again, I look and I'm like, I was so naive. I think I probably still am, but just like not quite there at sort of relatively. I think 20, you should be a bit more there, really. My God, I really was that unworldly. So we did this show. I was sort of hopelessly clueless as to actually what the full intention of this show was, and this is how not quite aware I was. I was really a singer and a dancer, and all my waiting table friends came to see the show. And one of them said to me, "We've always said you're a singer and a dancer." He goes, "But you're a really good actress and you're really funny." And I remember actually just when he said that going, "Oh yeah, I'm acting." How? I mean, that's literally what went through my head. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's what I'm doing in the scenes before I sing."
Yeah.
Honestly, it's not even like a low IQ. It's just complete disassociation from the world that I inhabit.
It sounds like, I mean, your training was on the dancing and the singing.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you think about. And that, I guess that's, if the acting is coming naturally to you, you're not really thinking about it.
Yeah, and I think it was very much that. Anyway, I got another agent out of that very easily, and it was much more successful. I think they kind of had reality on what the product was and what it felt like to be part of that product of a theatre production, and how much fun it was to be part of that type of team. Because it's not, college is not that. College is very different from being in a cast.
Yeah.
And until you've been in a cast, you don't realise what the
is. I've never, the only way I've ever been able to describe that experience to people is just like you become family overnight.
Yeah.
And that's the only way I can think to describe it, because it's so intimate so quickly.
Yeah, you sort of like have this immediate family, but you also know that it's going to immediately disperse, and there's no grief or upset about that. It's just like you integrate and you come apart, and then you might pick it up again in another. And again, it goes back to that, you just get desensitized to change, just like it's changing all the time, and you fully embrace it when it's happening, and you fully let it go when it's gone. So I think it's actually very healthy to have that desensitization, because I think it sort of gives you benefits in other areas of your life where you can really, really have something and also be completely okay with not having it, because you know that you're always you whenever anything else outside of you is going on. Right. So got this agent, did really well, started to get auditions for things, got a comedy thing at the Canal Cafe called News Review, which was Britain's longest running comedy show. Really cut my teeth that way. I was terrified. I mean, basically, we'll talk about, without going on about it, had this sort of stage fright thing going on with that, and then realised as I got in front of an audience, I had this real thing where I was mostly terrified before getting on stage, and then the second I get on stage in front of an audience, a whole other thing overtakes me, and I'm very funny. And I realised that in this sort of comedy show. And I get a lot more confident when I've got an audience, and I've realised the mechanism of that is basically when there's only a few people looking at you and they can stop and critique you during rehearsals, you feel very vulnerable. Whereas the second you're on stage, there's only one big blob. You're only confronting one thing. It's one audience. It's not.
There's like a barrier between.
Yeah,
there's a barrier. You know, they're not going to suddenly go, that was shit.
Yeah, start again. You know, you're fully immersed in it, and you have much more control as a performer, because it's much easier to confront one thing than 5 different things. You know, I think that's something of that. So I did that comedy show. I then got another lead in another Fringe musical, but it was a really great Fringe musical called Brenda Bligh Teen Detective, which was with Sam Spencer-Lane choreographing. And I got seen in that by the producers of Footloose, who then cast me as Rusty in Footloose, which was a real learning curve for me, touring the UK in the European premiere of Footloose, which was amazing. I loved it, and you got to see the whole country, and I really, at the time, I loved being on tour. Yeah. And I loved doing the show so much, because it was my first period of actually being in a show for a very, very long time. It was nearly a year contract, I think. Actually, maybe it wasn't quite that long, but
I mean, for a young actor, musical theatre actor starting out, like that's the gold contract, isn't it? Like a year long, you're like.
That was, just so anyone watching this who's worrying about not getting a job for that first proper paid, proper stable job was when I was 23 and I'd left college at 18.
Right. 5 years.
A really good 5 years. And then after that, I didn't, I'd have like a year out and then get another show, a year out, get another show. Like, it was really kind of higgledy-piggledy. And even when you think you've got that first stable job and you've got all the great reviews and you suddenly understand the business and you've got connections, it takes a long time to stabilize your reputation in this industry.
Right.
To get a little bit more regular work, really. And don't worry. Like I really didn't. I would say I kind of got a name when I did the Carole King show.
Right.
And that was a long. I was when I was 34. I got that.
Right.
So, and I've been working since I was 23. So don't give up when your agent drops you when you're 19. You can still win an Olivier a long time later. You'll be all right, is what I'm saying. Just hang in there. Hang in there. Enjoy the journey. Don't take anything personally. And
we've talked about, I guess, this kind of naivety of kind of, I guess, growing up with this musical theatre training and stuff. But this idea that you had in your head, you wanted to be this big performer, does that kind of match up to what you thought it would be?
Good question. So the imaginary idea of
like the reality versus the.
Gosh, I can't even remember what I thought it would have felt like when I was young. I suppose sometimes. I think there's periods, or there can be periods rather, where everything's going right. And it might be a week or a few months. They're not very often, like where everything's going right. Most things are going right all the time, but when you feel like, whoa, everything's going really, really well right now, it feels how you imagined. But they're very fleeting, and there's no sadness in that. It's just that's life, In or out of showbiz, it's like when the finances are great, when the inner joy is great, when you like yourself, when you're not having any self-flagellations, when you feel confident in your job, when your friends are good, when you feel very causative in your life, when you're working with people that inspire you, when there's extra additional benefits to the job, when you just feel like everything is sort of causing this sort of growth in all areas of your life, that's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful feeling. And sometimes it's only half of it's going well, but it's still nice. But when it's all going well, you're like, and you know it as well, you're like, wow, everything's going really well. This is so nice.
It's almost like a powerful wave, really, isn't it?
That's a nice way of describing it. Like there's this going on, and then suddenly you just get that big wave and you're on a surfboard and you're like, yeah, I'm going to enjoy this. And you know it won't last again, but you're like, I'm just going to enjoy this because this is really nice.
So to talk, the Carole King show, beautiful. What was that like?
That was, and I probably hinted at that. It was really the job that it just fitted me like a glove. All the things I'm good at were what were required from that role. It paid well. It gave me lots of PR. It was great positioning. There was so many pleasurable things that were that came from the show. I took over from a very good friend of mine, Katie Braben. So that even the passing of the baton from her to me was pleasurable because she was my mate. And often you might be taking over from another leading lady that you might like, but you might not know very well, and you feel a bit weird. But with Katie, it was like she's such a lovely human being.
With that transition, do you study what they've done before, or do you just kind of go in with fresh eyes?
I saw her twice as a mate watching the show, and then once when I knew I was taking over and wanted to be honest, the last time I watched her do it, I wasn't really watching her. I was watching all the quick changes. There's something like 28 quick changes.
Oh my God.
It's something. It might be a bit less than that, but it's a lot.
I mean, I guess you are telling a life story, and there's a lot of costume changes in there.
full costume and wig changes. And obviously, when the first two times I watched the show, I was watching it as a punter, just going, I love this show. This is the best commercial musical I'd seen since Wicked, was my opinion, right? And I loved it. I just thought it was brilliant writing. It was a play with music. I just loved it. I was a big fan of the show. And then the last time I watched it, I was watching the technical side of it. And I remember going, oh my God, she's just come off stage in like 10 seconds and done a complete wig and costume change, complete shoes, trousers, dress, wig in 10 seconds. And I was like, and she's just done it again and again and again. And I was like, because this is where experience comes into this profession. And, I think some people come into this profession, and if their family are in any way theatrical, you get told about the backstage technical stuff, right? When you're very much just like, I love singing, that's really the essence of me, right? No freaking clue of any practical side of things. Was the experience I learned the painful way, which was just hopeless naivety, was, okay, the things that trip you up as an actor obviously you need to learn your lines, you need to know where you're standing. It will be messing up a quick change. It will screw you up more than anything else, because all your attention will be on, my wig's not 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 on.
Right.
And you won't be in the scene at all. And in a show like that, when there's like a ridiculous amount of quick changes, I was like, if I need to drill those quick changes within an inch of my life, having done a lot of quick changes and knowing you let everybody else, you assist other people in their job at that moment. It's not about you. You're like, you need my right foot, you need my left foot, my arms need to be here, my wig needs to come off first. I just need to let them do their thing, right?
It's not you putting on clothes, it's other people putting clothes on you.
It's their job at that point. You just facilitate them. You just make their job easier. And knowing that those are choreograph moments and getting those done will make everything that I need to do possible. So, and I'm really proud of this, every single time we did the quick change in technical rehearsal, we nailed it first time. And when we did the very, very last one, I literally, are kids going to watch this?
Yeah.
I literally went, yes, you motherfuckers! Because every quick change we got right first time. And also I had so little time to rehearse. Like it's such a big role.
Yeah.
You just need and I remember just going through everything in my head. I wrote down every quick change, and I go off and I go there, and I go off and I go there. That part of it was almost more important than the on stage stuff, because actually she often just walks on stage and sits at the piano. Oh, and the other thing was you had to learn how to mime piano and give special, and you had to play.
I never thought about that, actually.
Because I play piano, right? But you sort of have to mime a specific way. So you always have to put your hands cued the camera. Your hands cued the MD who could see your hands on a bird's eye camera.
Yeah.
So you always had to do it so they could see your hand. And you would never play like that. You'd never ever stop playing like that. So you had to sort of do this unnatural thing, right?
And did they just cut the strings so you can like press the keys?
You wish they had. No, they made these really weird pianos that were like someone giving you a really weak hand shake. They were like, they were horrible to play. They were horrible. They were like spongy and they had no resistance to them. I wish they'd, just had a silenced piano, but I don't know why they did them like that.
Wait, I mean, you're playing a real life character in that. How did you go about prepping with that? Did you get to spend some time with Carole King, or was it just the story, or like, okay, I'm thinking about this as fiction?
Very much thinking of it as honouring a human being that still existed, because she's still alive, and there's you can't just interpret it how you would prefer to interpret something, which often is what happens. You're in a show and you're like, I'm really good at doing this kind of thing, and depending on the director, some directors, are like, they want to push you and be like, don't make your safe choice, don't make the choice that you know you're good at, and they'll push you for different things. But with this one, it was, there is only one option.
Yeah,
is how Carole would do it, and you're like, oh. And it was my instincts, but there were a couple of places that were the opposite of everything I would ever do as someone else's, and I was like, oh God. And he'd always come back, Mark Bruni, the American director, and be like, Cass, you're doing that. And I'd be like, oh, I just find it so hard. I'm sorry. That one moment, I know I've got to be this way, not that way, you know.
Yeah.
And it was a lovely challenge, because you're always like, I have to think her way and only her way. There is no, I'm just going to be a bit more the way I would like to do this. And I loved that. And it was actually really pleasurable to go, oh, I love how she loves, I remember watching her, a really helpful thing she did was, after I'd been playing the role for 9 months, and then I was supposed to sing with her at Hyde Park, I rehearsed with her. And then we were done, and she said, look, would you like to stay around and watch me rehearse, just in case you want to pick up any mannerisms or any isms that I have? And I was like, yeah, that'd be amazing. And she told me a couple of things that were like little private moments for her of big moments in her life, like how she was thinking. And I've never told anyone what they were. I just went, thank you, I will put them in the show. No one will know they were in the show.
Yeah, but they're here.
But they are from her. They're her thoughts at that moment, right?
Yeah.
And I also noticed how she was with her band, and I loved that. And so I tried to take on that quality as much as possible. I was like, that's how much she loves other musicians, and I always wanted to have the essence of her absolute. She wanted other people to be everything they could be as an artist. And she wants that. She was like, I want them to love, and her appreciation of music is so not ego-driven. There's no ego. It's so the pleasure of someone else becoming all they can be in their artistry is her joy. That's her joy. It's such a lovely thing to embody every night. Such a lovely, lovely sensation. And then by the time she saw me in the show, she said nice things to me, and I was really pleased that I'd done all that work. She actually said nice things, and I was like, okay, good, okay, done a good job. You know,
pressure off.
Yeah.
So was that show was kind of a turning point for you?
Very much. Very much. Yeah.
Was it that show that led to Leading Ladies?
Yes.
Because how did that happen?
I know, it's very much one of those. It was the phone call from heaven, which we've all heard about, but when they happen to you, they are lovely.
Yeah,
they are very, very lovely. Hi, would you like an absolutely game-changing job? And you don't have to audition. We're just going to pay you a nice amount of money, and you get to work with world-class performers. And you're like, oh yes.
I mean, the thing that astonishes me about that job, I guess for all three of you, was the fact that you just got to sing the best show tunes and you got to belt them, and you just got to sing, you know.
We picked all the songs ourselves. So it's really nice when people like our song choices, because it really was the three of us creating this.
Yeah.
We did the vocal harmony, vocal arrangements as well. So it really was our baby. And when Brian Rowling produced it, and it really was it wasn't okay, we're going to give you these songs, this is how we're going to do it. It was our album, and I am so proud of it. I think Brian did an amazing production mix, and the songs sound great. And obviously working with Beverly and Amber was an absolute pinch me, I'm dreaming. You know, did
you know them before you became a trio? So you were really learning each other and your voices and how to work together at the same time.
Yeah.
Wow, what an experience that must have been. Really,
it really was. And again, very pleasurable, largely because of the personalities involved, and we had a lot of support from the record label. We really had, we had the hair and makeup teams, everyone there was just this massive layer of support for us, and it felt wonderful. It was like being thrown in the deep end. So I very much was, because I had to be treated with parity to two megastars, and with no sort of what's the word I'm looking for, like condescension to myself. I'm nowhere near as well known as they are, but having to be treated at every interview and everything with the level that they're treated at was very weird. it was very, very weird. So there's me like meeting Graham Norton, chatting to Hugh Bonneville, saying hi to Kenneth Branagh, all these weird, and obviously they are naturally, because I'm part of this trio, treating me with some probably a bit more interest than they normally ever would have. In not in a bad way, and just it's just the isness, it's the actuality of what's happening.
Yeah.
So it was amazing. And I really sort of went from here to there with no gradient. There was no like middle steps. It was just like, and you're going to be treated as famous even if you're not, which was lovely.
That's just sometimes how it happens, you know. And
and I
ride it.
I did. I mean, it was intense. It's an intense leap, but I had I still pinch myself. I was on the Graham Norton sofa. I can't believe I was there, you know. And
is that show fun to do?
Yeah. I mean, it was because one, you've got maybe two times to do the song correctly. It's all filmed live, but pre-recorded sort of thing. And most of it, the thing about being a girl is they have to do so much hair and makeup on you. And if you're running behind and you've got to get in the dress and there's this whole clock thing ticking, and then you're sort of on and then you're off. And it is fun, but also you sort of go, you can't mess it up. Right. So they were sort of, it was intense. It was wonderful, but intense is the best way to describe these things.
But with, I guess, putting the album together and stuff like that, I mean, each of you have such big voices, you know, like there's no hiding any one of your voices. So like, did you really have to kind of practice, like, I guess, balancing them?
No,
you just let loose.
No, all of us know how to blend. So instinctively. So there was no problem with that at all.
That's good. For what's your favourite track on that one?
Vocally, it was "We Still Love Me Tomorrow." It was the one we just sat in the room and the producers went, "Why don't you just see what happens?" And we all sang 3-part harmony the whole way through, and that's basically what we recorded. Like the blend, we all said the blend of our voices was spooky. Yeah, like the three of our voices, for whatever reason, that all of these frequencies got touched on in the blend, and it was really special. Yeah, and we all kind of were like, that's unusually good. Yeah.
Is there going to be a Leading Ladies too?
Who knows? I mean, nothing bubbling at the moment, but yeah, I mean, God, who knows? Who knows?
I guess you could always do the thing if one person can't do it, you're like, oh,
we contractually are all replaceable. Just so you know, keeps you grounded.
Well, that's when you're like, you could be the one on the on the line, but
yeah, you could be the last man standing, like, just to keep everything really real, you know.
So from that you went to and Juliet.
No, from that I went into chess.
Oh, chess, yeah.
And chess, chess, Man of La Mancha, releasing my own album. Released my own album, and then Juliet, yeah.
What was that like, releasing your own album after having the kind of backup of?
I did miss having the girls, particularly Beverly, because she's so motherly, and she's such a big sister presence, and she still is very much big sister for me. But I'm really pleased I'd done Leading Ladies, because I felt like I wasn't doing it for the first time by myself, even though I was by myself, if that makes any sense. Yeah. It went well. The album I am so proud of. There's certain things around it that I was really unhappy with, some of the quality of the videos that I filmed. And there's not a lot you can do about it because we had to get the album out very quickly because of timings. And so there's some things that I'm like, no, that wasn't great and it wasn't good enough. But there were a lot of things. It was great. Again, I managed to get on lots of TV shows with my own name, which I could not actually fathom.
Yeah.
I was agog that BBC Breakfast agreed to have me on, which is one of the most reactive slots you can get on TV.
Yeah.
Like, they turned down ridiculous. I got shown the list of who they turned down to do that slot, and these are mega stars. And so I cannot fathom how on earth I got that slot. I just have no idea. And I actually sent my my marketing, my PR marketing person, who was hired by the label, but I sent them champagne because I just went, how on earth did you get me on that? Like, how did you pull that off?
I guess at some point it is kind of putting all humility aside and going, no, I've actually earned this position now. You know, I've done the dues, I've done the hard work, I've created some amazing content, and just gone, I can enjoy this element now.
And I suppose, you know, there's all of that, and then sometimes the wind is just blowing in your favor. Yeah. You know, sometimes you're in a sailing ship. I'm off again. You're in a sailing ship, everything's aligned, your crew are good, everything's good, and then you just get a really good behind wind.
Yeah.
And I think those are sometimes you have to say that is also a factor in any success in your life. Yeah. And I think you get better and better and better at capitalizing and making the most of when everything's going right. You're like, everything's going right now. Let's make sure I get as much out of this as possible. So the next time we get a good wind, we're already sort of moving, you know? Yeah. I think you just get much more savvy.
Yeah. So when are you back in the theatre?
Well, I hope you know that I got a role in The Mousetrap, which is the longest running show ever. Yeah. And but I'm only going to be in it for 8 weeks. And it's my first West End play. And
how are you feeling about that? No jazz hands, no belters.
I know. I'm okay. I have done a couple of plays before, and I feel totally fine with it. Yeah.
It's a great little show. That
it's great. It's really. I saw it about 10 years ago, and I was like, oh, it's great. There's a reason why it's been running this long. There is a reason. You know, it's a good show, and I'm really excited. And it's also going to be it's double cast because of COVID. So if any bubble goes down, you have another bubble. So
that's brilliant.
It's brilliant. So we're actually only doing half the shows each week. So it's going to be a very nice sort of interim step to getting into 8 shows a week and singing my head off again. Yeah. It's going to be nice. It's going to be nice. It's a lot more dialogue. They talk a lot in plays. I was like, we're saying stuff again. Shouldn't there be a song and some jazz hands? No, I'm joking.
Have rehearsal started then?
On Monday. It's what is it today? Tuesday.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited for everyone getting back into rehearsal rooms.
Because you know, and you really feel like the numbers are so low. Everything's going so well. I think we're going to open on May 17th, as the government stated, which is very exciting. It was very like, oh gosh, this thing we've all been waiting for is sort of going to happen. And it's so lovely because Adam Spiegel is producing The Mousetrap, and he sent a lovely email last week saying, you know, obviously he's very excited to sort of be part of the push of the industry to reopen. And I just really thought, my God, you're really putting everything on the line, not because you might lose loads of money. Yeah. And I just thought, the producers that are willing to be right at the front are clearly, I think, the real driving force of this industry, because they are about the industry. Obviously, everyone needs to make money. We live on an economic planet, but there's always, you can make money doing stock market. If you choose to make money in the arts, those that are making the money in the arts because they love the arts are the ones willing to put their finances on the line to serve the industry that served them well. Oh God, I'm off again. I'm off again.
But no, you're right though. It's worth respecting, you know? I mean, producers, I think, considering some of the conversations that have come out of COVID and the arts industry being shut down and stuff like that, I feel like producers have had a bit of a hard time. everyone's always like, they always get the money, and then everyone else who's like freelancers, they get left behind, blah, blah, blah. And to some extent, that is true. But at the same time, they are the ones taking the risk. And you're right, in terms of reopening and putting themselves on the line, it is worth respecting and acknowledging it.
And I'm not, sorry, just to be clarified, I'm not saying all producers.
Yes.
I'm saying some.
The good ones.
Some, who shall remain nameless, have been surprisingly leaving themselves open to different interpretations of their behavior, and we were like, oh,
yeah,
okay, that's how you feel. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Some have done the opposite and been Andrew Lloyd Webber, for example, has been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like more than I ever thought he'd be. He's been banging the drum louder than anybody, desperately trying to get this industry back on its feet and proving time and time again it is safe, it is safe, it is safe. Mm-hmm. We don't need social distancing in theatres. We have the technology to handle this. Mm-hmm. And he has never backed down. Mm-hmm. And he is putting his money where his mouth is, and he is putting Cinderella on, and he is, like, you're just like, oh, wow, you genuinely aren't in this for the money. You're in it for the artistry and for the industry and for the community, and you just go, yeah, go on, Andrew.
Yeah.
Also,
I think Cinderella's kind of almost leading the way, isn't it? In terms of opening up, and all the musical theatre fans are just like getting so excited about song releases coming out and stuff like that. They're just, I think people are ready now, I know some people are kind of a bit, I don't know, nervous about things opening up again and stuff like that. But I think theatres have got a good enough support system to...
Yeah, and also the statistics are very good worldwide. There's never been an outbreak of COVID sourced from any theatre. It's never happened. So it is actually very, very safe statistically. Mm-hmm. Also, much as there's a lot of people that are openly saying they're nervous about going, there's a lot of people that have already booked their tickets.
Yeah.
And it was interesting that Les Mis, when it was announced before that the lockdown 2.0, Les Mis sold out in 48 hours.
God, actually, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there obviously are very loud people saying how scared they are. There's obviously a lot of people that aren't scared.
Well, that's it, isn't it? I mean, negativity always shouts loudest, but...
Exactly, I think very much that is like bad news travels farthest, and then the people that are just doing and not scared are just doing the doingnesses. They're just like, I'm not scared, so I'm going to do this. They're not going on Facebook going, I'm not scared, by the way. Yeah. They're just booking ticket, booking this, because they want to.
Yeah.
And
do you have your tickets booked? What's the first show you're going to see?
Funnily enough, I'm seeing Cinderella.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Do you know what I want to see? I want to see live big band jazz, like that kind of vibe. Like I recently, about a week ago, I watched Whiplash, which I know I should have seen ages ago, and I'm a massive.
But I mean, you sing at Ronnie Scott's, don't you?
I do.
I love Ronnie Scott. I mean, I'm a big band musician myself. So
how would you play? Trumpet,
saxophone, and clarinet.
I was right with the wind instrument.
Yeah,
I was like, you're a blower. I just went. I didn't mean that to sound. I meant that in the musician way. I really did. There you go. That's a good soundbite, Phoebe. That's a good soundbite. I went, oh, she's a blower.
Oh, I can't tell my mother that. She's literally waiting when she gets back from work. She's like, oh my God, you're talking to Cassidy Janson today. I can't tell her that.
I know. I'm like, everyone has this sort of idea of what I'm like, and then I have, my humor is so naughty.
I love it. Yeah, no, I'm a blower. Clarinet and saxophone.
No, I did. I got an image, and I was like, you're a wind instrument.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I've played everything under the sun over the years, but always come back to that. Piano's the one I always wished I continued with.
It's very useful.
Yeah. Like I started, but it's just one of those things you like get bored of it and stop. But oh no, dream to play at Ronnie Scott's one time, because definitely head there for drinks after dinner quite a lot.
It's just the vibe there is amazing. I have a residency there as well, which is going to be open in June.
Oh, amazing! Okay,
so that's
spot. I'm coming.
It's kicking off on the 5th or the 11th of June. So the Saturday brunches, basically. So me and my guest each week, and my 4-piece band. So that's great. And then, so that's going to be. But anyway, going back to Whiplash, the movie. I really want to see. So I was watching it, and I was like, "How have I not seen this movie?" And the music in it is just such my vibe. I was like, "Oh, it's so my vibe." And I was like, "I've got to be in a room with jazz musicians, giving it full." Just
I think Whiplash does well at getting that almost psychedelic element of jazz.
Yeah.
Like, I have not quite seen a film which gets that element, but it is
exactly
proper jazz. You know,
it got the essence of what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and I loved that. And I'm not a massive fan of like weird improvisational jazz. It sort of towed the line very well with being accessible, because it had a lot of musicality in the charts and the orchestrations, but it did also allow for the crazy drum things, the crazy drum solos, and it didn't get. I mean, the sound. I think it won best sound mixing or something. It was certainly Oscar nominated, because it captured the essence of what we want jazz to sound like. And I was like, oh God, it's
so if someone came along with like a jazz jukebox musical, you'd be like, okay.
I'd be like, by the way, guys, I'm really good at singing jazz.
What kind of music do you do in your brunches?
I do. Well, actually, they're musical theatre. It was their first branching out into musical theatre, so it is specifically musical theatre style singing. But my first love was Harry Connick Jr. If I sang with Harry Connick Jr. and his big band, I'd be like, I can die now.
Yeah.
That's it. There is nothing this lifetime is going to be any better than that, and everything would be downhill. So maybe I should never sing with Harry Connick Jr.
Maybe not. Well, it could be worth it. It could be worth it. And that Tony Bennett, I think.
Oh God, just those I love that Tony is still going. He's like the last of that era. The stories he must know.
I know.
My mates, the Jive Aces, who are a jazz band that you may or may not know, I gigged with. They were very pally with Tony Prima, who was obviously married to Louis Prima. So she would tell them all of, I think Frank Sinatra was godfather to their child, and like really talking about the time she got drunk and he had to get, these really, really happened. These were mates, know, and she wouldn't marry. I think he asked her to marry him, and she said no because of his mafia connections. This. So they're all sitting around having tea and having a nice breakfast, and Tony Prima's just like, yeah, Frank asked me to marry him, and you're just like, wow, just wow. The stories,
I mean, have you heard this phrase that everyone's kind of using at the moment, or I guess it like 20s generation is kind of using at the moment, which is that this from like when lockdown ends is going to be the new 20s,
Oh yeah, the Roaring 20s, yeah.
The Roaring 20s are coming back, and I'm just like, great, I want the fashion and I want the music, most importantly, please. I'm so waiting for the next kind of jazz musicians to come. I mean, sea shanties have come back. Why can't we have some
jazz? I know. Fisherman's Friends has a lot to answer for. They are great. Like, some of them are great. Yeah.
One last question for you, Cassidy, and then I'll let you go. Just to kind of round things off. If you can summarize for me, what are the good, bad, and mad things about what you do?
Okay, so the good about what I do is the community, amazing friends, being inspired, get to inspire, being part of someone else's inspiration rather, getting to, on the best of days, change people's moods en masse. So they could come in relatively neutral and they leave elated. And they're going to go home they're in a different state, right? I love that. That's good. This is very brief. There's obviously more good things about this industry. The bad is, again, just as good people can make your life good, bad people can make your life bad. So work with good people, not always possible. Bad people can make it very upsetting. Be careful. And also, much as people can seem really nice in this industry, just be savvy. Some people can't keep a secret and they will betray you. That's happened to me a few times, from a couple of people that I thought were my friends. So just be careful.
Look after yourself.
Yeah. But trust those that are trust those that are trustworthy, you just get better at spotting who's fake and who's not. Good, bad, and what was it? Mad.
Like mad, crazy things that you find yourself getting up to.
Mad. Gosh, what are the mad things? I'm trying to think. I don't really do the mad things anymore. I suppose it can be I think when, and I suppose it's not bad. Those nights where you're all out as a cast, and you might not necessarily be particularly tipsy or drunk, but you've got a group of people who want to play. Like we went on this bowling alley night in Manchester with all of the cast of and Juliet, and it was just people out for playtime, and it was glorious. And those are the mad nights where we don't just bowl, we're kind of like, there's an artistry to how people are doing it, and there's like this playful competitiveness, and it's wonderful. And I think people always being just a little bit more social than the regular people en masse can be, I think sometimes we take it for granted how much fun we can actually have.
Madly wonderful.
Madly wonderful. There you go.
Cassidy, it's been so lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much.
It's been so nice.
I can't wait to come see you in a show.
It's going to be about 4 weeks. 4 weeks. I can't believe it. 4 weeks I'll be on stage. It's mad. But listen, thank you for a lovely interview.
No, you're an absolute sweetheart, and good luck with rehearsals.
Thank you very much, my darling. All right.
Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Good Bad Mad podcast. Please subscribe to check out the next episode, or leave a review if you liked it. You can find us on Instagram @goodbadmad or at goodbadmad.com for additional resources and information. See you next time.